welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something, well, pretty fascinating. It's this collision of the really old and the very new.
Yeah, we're talking ancient numerology meets modern artificial intelligence.
Exactly. For thousands of years, there's been this belief that numbers, they're not just for counting, they hold some kind of cosmic significance.
Right. Clues about who we are, our lives, maybe even our destiny.
Think way back, like Pythagoras. Remember him from math class?
Sure, the theorem guy.
Yeah. Well, he was apparently a huge believer in this idea that numbers are fundamental to, well, everything.
And now, cut to today, and we have AI machines.
And these machines can crunch just vast amounts of numerical data about us. Birth dates, names converted to numbers, all that stuff.
So that's what we're diving into, this intersection.
Our mission, if you will. Can AI actually give us, fresh perspectives on these old numerology ideas? Predictions even?
Or is it maybe just a cool, kind of quirky trend using AI for something like this?
It's a great question. It really is.
Yeah. It's definitely a thought-provoking area, taking this, super advanced tech and applying it to a belief system that's centuries old.
Because numerology, at its core, it's about finding patterns.
Right.
And giving meaning to numbers.
Pretty much. And when you think about it, what's AI really, really good at?
Finding patterns.
Exactly.
Sophisticated pattern recognition.
It lines up in a weird way.
It does. And just to get us thinking, consider this. Pythagoras, the math genius.
Yeah.
He genuinely believed numbers held deep meaning.
So you could almost frame him as like an early data scientist trying to decode the universe with numbers.
Kind of, yeah. So you've really dug into this stuff with me. The big question we started with, this AI and numerology combo. Is it a real step forward? A genuine advance in understanding?
Or is it just, a clever tech demo? An interesting exercise?
Yeah. What's the verdict so far?
Well, right now, it looks like a bit of both, honestly.
All right. How so?
AI brings massive computational power. Things a human numerologist just couldn't do manually, like processing huge data sets for patterns.
Right, the scale is different.
Definitely. So in terms of scale, finding correlations, yeah, it's an advancement there.
But there's a but, I sense.
But the meaning,
Yeah.
the interpretation of those patterns, that still seems to lean heavily on the traditional numerology rules and ideas.
Oh, okay.
AI helps see the numbers better, maybe find more subtle things, but what those numbers mean, that's still rooted in the old system.
So AI isn't inventing new meanings from scratch. It's just applying its power to the existing numerology playbook.
Pretty much, yeah. Think of it like getting a much, much more powerful microscope to look at cells.
Okay.
The microscope shows you way more detail, things you couldn't see before. But the basic rules of biology, what a cell is, that hasn't changed.
Got it. AI is the better microscope for numerological data.
Exactly. It might show patterns that support the old ideas, or maybe even challenge some interpretations within that system.
That makes sense. So based on what we've looked at, what are the key things AI is actually doing in this space?
Okay, so a few key capabilities stand out. First, as we said, pattern recognition. That's huge.
Sifting through dates, names, all that.
Yep. Looking for recurring sequences, links, correlations. Second, prediction.
The crystal ball part.
Well, hold on. It's more about probabilities, not like, this will happen.
Okay, more like tendencies. Increased chances.
Exactly. Based on the patterns it finds, AI might say certain number combinations correlate with certain outcomes or tendencies more often, but it's not destiny.
Right. Crucial difference. And third.
Third, there's this idea of influencing behavior, potentially.
How would that work?
Well, if the AI finds patterns linked to, say, positive well-being or success, theoretically you could use it to suggest actions or choices associated with those good numbers. Nudging, basically.
Okay. That leads to a pretty big question, though, doesn't it?
Just
Can an algorithm, lines of code and data, can it really understand something like your soul's purpose? That's deep spiritual stuff, often tied to numerology.
yeah, and that's where you hit the limits of AI, right?
Seems like it.
AI works on data, algorithms. It doesn't have consciousness, intuition, values. Not like a person.
So soul's purpose. That's probably a step too far for a machine analyzing numbers.
It's hard to see how it could. Yeah, that's a deeply human philosophical concept. AI can find correlations in numbers, but grasping that kind of meaning, probably not.
We also came across some, like the idea that if you change your name legally, say you become Lionel Richie Jr.,
Okay, random, but okay.
your destiny number in numerology terms, actually gets recalculated.
Ah, right, because the letters change, the number values change.
Exactly. So the calculation changes, which, if you believe in it, raises the question, does changing the number change your actual path?
It really shows how literally the system connects letters and numbers. AI could do that recalculation instantly, of course. Shows how fluid it is based on the input data.
And then there was an anecdote. A tech CEO supposedly swapped out their human astrologer
Oh, I remember this one.
for ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's quite a statement, isn't it? About how AI is being seen.
As efficient, maybe?
Accessible?
Accessible, definitely. Available 24/7, cheaper, maybe. Instead of booking a consultation, you just ask the AI.
But what gets lost there? The human element.
You'd think so. That nuanced interpretation, the experience, maybe just the connection you get talking to a person about this stuff.
True. Okay, as we start to sort of wrap this up, let's quickly touch on a couple more of those intriguing bits.
Sure.
Remember the AI in Nevada? The one that was supposed to predict lottery numbers?
Oh, yeah. And how did that go?
Total bust.
Right. A perfect example of the limits. Yeah. Finding patterns isn't the same as predicting pure randomness.
Exactly. AI is powerful, but it's not magic. Especially with lotteries.
A good reality check. So, bringing this all together, it's pretty clear that putting AI into fields like numerology, these traditional belief systems, it really kicks up some fundamental questions.
It absolutely does. Makes you think about the future, doesn't it? The future of tech and the future of how we find meaning.
How we make sense of the world when everything is becoming so data-driven.
Precisely. And it forces us to be critical, I think, about what AI can do and what its limits are, especially when we're talking about things that feel deeply human or even spiritual.
Well said. Definitely leaves you with a lot to chew on.
For sure.
Well, thanks for unpacking all that with me today. It's been a really interesting deep dive.
My pleasure. It's fascinating stuff.
Absolutely. So until our next exploration, keep thinking, keep questioning. We'll catch you next time.